Alright folks, a quick update here. I'm going to Xinjiang next week and I've decided to make a bold move here, which is I'm only gonna bring my film cameras, and more specifically medium format film cameras. Now why no digital cameras, you may ask? I mean, I have to admit that with a digital camera, you can simply do so much more in the post. You can basically conjure up a dramatic and moody image from a relatively dull and boring and flat picture. I'm not saying that I don't agree with post-processing, I just thought it would be more fun if I only bring my film cameras with me. And the issue here is that I've actually got 5 of them right here on the desk next to me. So I think it would be a good opportunity for me to share my experience using these cameras. Without further ado, let's get started. The first camera here is the Pentax 672. You may recall that in one of my previous videos, I did a detailed review about its predecessor, which is the Pentax 67. I really loved that camera, so much so that I sold it, bought this bad boy right here, which cost almost 3 times as much as that one. It's got a 105 2.4 lens on it and this really cool wooden grip. So this camera is fully electronic. You've actually got auto shutter speed here. The metering system here is actually quite advanced in the sense that you can pick from spot metering, central weighted metering, and this green one here, which is matrix metering. It's gonna take the readings from the 6 areas in the scene and do its own magic and give you a calculated result. And I have to say this is a quite reliable metering system. And here is your compensation dial, which goes from +3 to -3, and this is your film advance lever and your shutter. Overall, I think this camera works just like any 35mm SLRs out there, so it's quite intuitive. And I really love the big bright viewfinder as well. It's super clear, super bright, and really easy to focus. There's really not much bad things to say about this camera here, other than its weight and the shape of the camera, which means it's gonna consume a lot of your luggage space, and that's not what I want. And because it's a 6.7 camera and the lenses are really good, the picture quality out of this thing is otherworldly. But I'm probably not gonna bring it with me, essentially because of the next one coming up. And it is no other than the Mamiya 7. It is probably one of my favorite medium format cameras because it's so lightweight and also it's really easy to work with. Everything is just super intuitive and the files out of it is as good, if not better than any other 6x7 cameras out there, because all the Mamiya 7 lenses are basically tech sharp. And the one I got here is a 65mm f4, so it's relatively wide, which I think will be quite suitable for landscape photographies, which I suppose is going to be the main theme of this trip. So I'm definitely gonna bring this camera with me. It's gonna be my gun and run camera. I'm probably gonna use it in the car quite a bit because it's gonna be a lot of driving. So to have a camera that's light and quick to operate and with great result is all I need. So this is definitely a yes. Alright, so the next camera I'm going to talk about is this baby right here. I'm gonna open this up and ta-da! As you can see, it's a Rolleifex. And to be more specific, it's a 2.8F whiteface Rolleifex. So it's a quite desirable collector's item, and that's probably one of the reasons why I don't intend to bring it along with me on this trip. So as you can see, it's actually got 2 lenses here. That's why it's a TLR, twin lens reflector, I believe. You basically see through the first lens here to do your composition and focusing, and the second lens is the taking lens, which takes the picture. And the way you operate this camera is also pretty unique. You basically hold it like this and you have 2 knobs here which you can turn to change your aperture and shutter speed. Alright, let me take this off. And to focus, you essentially turn this knob right here, and here is your shutter. So to use this camera to take photos, you're basically turning 3 knobs and press 1 button. So it's quite straightforward. But there are 2 caveats with this camera that I found with my limited experience with it. The first thing is that the focusing screen here is quite dark, so it's not that easy to focus, and plus it's a split image focusing screen. I found myself misfocused quite a lot. I think I much prefer micro prism focusing screens. I'll talk more about this beauty right here in my future videos, but for now I think it's a big no. And let's move to the next camera. Alright, So the next camera here is the Mamiya RB67 Pro SD. It's such a beast of a camera. Look at how huge it is. And I mean, this is already one of the smallest lenses for this camera, which is the 127mm f3.5. Other than its big size, it's such a wonderful camera. It's called RB because of the rotating back, as you can see here. Because it's also a 6x7 camera, just like the Mamiya 7 and Pentax 67. But since you've got a viewfinder like this, it's really hard to tilt the camera itself, which is why they come up with this genius design, and you just need to rotate the back of the camera to switch between landscape mode and portrait mode. So this camera, just like any other Mamiya cameras out there, has got really sharp lenses. The result out of it, it's just amazing. And the 127mm here actually complements the 65 on my Mamiya 7 quite well. And like I said before, it's a 6x7 camera, so I don't have to worry about cropping or anything. It's just gonna match the photos out of my Mamiya 7 wonderfully. That's why I think I probably would bring this, but having said that, it's just too big of a camera to carry around. And plus, I've only got this one single lens with it, which is quite a limiting factor. And one of the advantages of this camera is because of the barrel design here. As you can see, you focus this camera by turning the knob here, and the barrel will extend, which means it's gonna focus really close. I mean really close, macro level close. And the barrel system, from what I've heard, is really reliable. And plus, this is a fully mechanical camera, so I don't expect it to malfunction or break down that easily. Now, the Mamiya RB67 is a modular system, which means you can take the back off just like that. And if you got two backs, you can shoot different kind of films throughout one shoot. And that's a huge bonus. So I would probably bring this camera with me, but for now, I think it's a question mark. And that is partially because of the next camera I'm gonna talk to you about. Okay, so this is the Hasselblad 503 CW. It's also a camera that I've shown you in one of my previous videos. As you can see, it's so much smaller than the RB67, but it's a very similar design. Now, like the Mamiya RB, the Hasselblad is also a modular system, which means the back of the camera can also be taken off. And holding in my hand right now, after handling the RB67, I actually found it quite lightweight. And also, as you can see, the shape of the camera is basically like a rectangular box, so it's not gonna take up too much luggage space. And to me, that's a huge bonus, especially if you're going on a long trip like this. And I've actually got 3 lenses with this system. The most used one is probably the 80mm here, but for this trip, I think the 80mm is too close to the Mamiya 765, so I'm probably just gonna bring the other 2 lenses, which is the 150mm on my right hand side and the 50mm on my left hand side. These would complement the 65mm on the Mamiya 7 quite well. One goes wide and one goes long. So I think I'm probably gonna take the Hasselblad instead of the Mamiya RB67. The only gripe here is that the Hasselblad is a 6x6 camera, which means the square format here is not gonna perfectly match the one on the Mamiya 7, but maybe, just maybe, the diversity actually will come up to be a positive surprise. Who knows? Alright, so after going through all these medium format film cameras, I hope you have a better understanding of their traits and specialties. Please let me know in the comments down below which one of these cameras you wish to hear more about, and I will probably do a separate video on it. All I have to say is that any of these cameras right here are brilliant cameras, and if you've got to pick one or two from the bunch, it really comes down to your application and personal preference. And for me, in a long road trip like this, since we're probably going to do a lot of hiking and trekking, so the priority will probably be weight saving and luggage space, because you're not gonna want to drag along a big and heavy camera bag with you all the time. And some of you might be thinking, why not bring a full frame or 35mm film camera? I think you can, but largely it's because from my own experience, the results from these medium format cameras are simply so much better. And since I really want to get the best out of this hard-earned trip, I want every image to really count and I don't want to regret later by saying things like, oh, I wish I've taken it with a medium format camera. So that's my own opinion and thought process going into picking cameras for this trip, and I'll probably do a video later on and share with you what gears I've decided to bring with me, not just cameras but like bags and other stuff, and stay tuned if you're interested. And I think that'll be it for today's video. I hope you really enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.